Olivia Bennet stepped out of the luxury sedan and strode toward the Hartley family's magnificent mansion in her perfectly tailored navy suit, exuding both elegance and authority. As the CEO of a renowned tech conglomerate, she had come to finalize a $900 million deal, one that could redefine her company's future and cement a partnership with one of the oldest, most powerful dynasties of wealth and privilege. The moment Olivia appeared at the grand entrance, every eye in the room snapped to her. Whispered murmurs rippled through the crowd like an invisible wave. A pearl necklace-clad woman glanced up with thinly veiled disdain, her lips curling into a cold smile. At that instant, Michael Hartley, the sole heir to the family empire, raised his champagne flute, and his voice dripping with sarcasm called out, "Did someone mix up and bring the helpin' early?" Ha! Awkward laughter erupted around the banquet hall. Olivia froze for a heartbeat, her heart stung by the unexpected insult, but she quickly composed herself. No one moved to defend her. Not even Richard Hartley, the venerable patriarch of the family. With a polite smile, she excused herself from the table. Even though her dessert hadn't yet been served. Word of the $900 million partnership between Olivia's tech firm and the Hartley empire spread like wildfire through the business world to many. It was a historic milestone for both sides, but for Olivia, it marked a deeply personal victory. A testament to years of shattering invisible barriers, overcoming prejudice, and winning brutal battles at the negotiation table. She was more than just a CEO. She embodied hope for everyone who'd ever been ignored, silenced, or underestimated. As the golden sunset bathed the estate in warm light, the Hartley mansion gleamed like a jewel on the Beverly Hills hillside. A row of gleaming supercars lined the driveway, and crystal chandeliers sparkled behind the mansion's ornate windows, clear symbols of the Hartleys' unmatched power and prosperity. From the sleek black sedan, Olivia descended once more, her tailored navy jacket highlighting her poise and natural grace. The click of her stiletto heels on the marble steps was steady and deliberate, each stride an unspoken declaration of the status she'd painstakingly earned. Her radiant brown skin and the neat updo of her curled hair conveyed a rare confidence in her eyes shone a single quiet message. She was not here as a mere guest, but as the holder of the key to a deal that could reshape the tech landscape. Crossing the threshold into the grand hall, she passed through towering doors carved with intricate floral motifs. Conversations hushed to discreet whispers. Few faces showed genuine admiration, others betrayed surprise and doubt. Few had anticipated that the lauded CEO of a top-tier tech firm so widely touted in the press would turn out to be such a young black woman. Olivia, however, remained unruffled. She offered a calm, polite smile, her gaze sweeping the Moltroger room with quiet determination, an unspoken reminder that her value lay not in idle gossip or others' preconceptions, but in her proven skill, integrity, and vision. In the far corner, Michael Hartley watched her with a calculating smirk, curiosity and skepticism flickering in his eyes. Olivia advanced towards her, Richard Hartley, the family's head, and extended her hand to greet him, only to have a haughty voice ring out, cutting through the elegantly charged air. At that very moment, did someone accidentally let the help in too early? The chill in his voice cut through the silence like a blade. Every head turned awry. Instantly to the speaker, Michael Hartley, the only son and prized heir of the Hartley family's billion-dollar empire. Michael stood beside the long table draped in white silk, one hand lifting his sparkling champagne flute. His gaze was cold and self-satisfied. Crystals from the chandelier cast shifting shadows across his sharp features, lending an eerie depth to his eyes. Simultaneously magnetic and frosty, the smirk on his lips held no genuine warmth, only contempt cloaked in a veneer of civility. At that moment, time seemed to freeze. Every conversation halted, leaving only the soft strains of background music to underscore the mounting tension. The guests glanced at each other. A few forced, nervous laughs broke the stillness, attempts to mask their discomfort with polite facades. Those hollow chuckles felt like 100 tiny needles to Olivia's heart. A woman accustomed to commanding the largest stages, leading thousands of employees, and conquering countless brutal challenges, now found herself publicly humiliated before dozens of strangers. Chest tightened, her face flushed with anger and shame. But Olivia maintained flawless composure. Not far away, Richard Hartley, respected patriarch and head of the family, stood silently. He did not intervene. His eyes flickered with uncertainty, perhaps concern for the family's reputation or unwilling to contradict his son in front of distinguished guests. Richard's silence was a bitter acquiescence, amplifying Olivia's pain and isolation amid the storm of her emotions. Olivia held her posture, tall, and met Michael's gaze with quiet steadiness. No words were spoken, yet her powerful silence conveyed a profound disdain for his crude insult. She knew she represented not just herself, but everyone ever belittled or discriminated against in the same way. Michael raised his champagne glass, a little higher, delighting in her reaction. Clearly, this was not his first act of arrogance. Raised in privilege, he'd inherited every advantage, but not a shred of basic empathy. His taunt was merely the latest proof of how money and status had warped him. The tension remained suffocating. Olivia's eyes swept the room. One last time, she caught sight of several younger guests, bowing their heads, avoiding her gaze. They were leaning, understood what had just happened, but lacked the courage to speak up or even show a sliver of solidarity. Then, with a proud smile, Olivia gave Richard a graceful nod, a final courteous farewell, and turned to leave. Her heels clicked confidently on the marble floor, louder and more assured than ever. She exited the room with her head held high, even as Michael Hartley's challenging, satisfied stare followed her out. What Michael didn't realize was that his thoughtless affront wouldn't just wound Olivia, it would spark a battle he himself had unwittingly ignited. And in that fight, the arrogant, often paying the steepest price. The click of Olivia's heels on the marble floor rang out like the steady beat of a triumphant anthem, shattering the suffocating tension. Michael Hartley had just created guests, tracked her every step, their eyes flickering with a mix of astonishment and restraint. Admiration for the astonishing calm she maintained in the face of public humiliation. When Olivia paused at the great doors of the hall, she turned once more to survey the room. The faint smile on her lips conveyed neither weakness nor bitterness. Instead, it spoke volumes. No matter how unjustly she was treated, she remained utterly in control of herself. Michael caught that smile, and for a moment his champagne flute quivered in his hand, despite his best effort to look unfazed. Nearby, Richard Hartley, Michael's father, and the esteemed patriarch stood motionless. Olivia walked away without uttering a word. His silence was a cruel endorsement of his son's contempt. Richard knew full well the fallout of the evening's insult, yet his pride as the head of the Hartley name would not allow him to object in front of their distinguished guests in choosing his family's reputation over justice. He became complicit in the pain inflicted on an innocent woman. Michael, after a brief flicker of surprise at Olivia's dignified response, quickly reassumed his indifferent composure. He offered a casual chuckle, as if her departure were no more than a minor power play, a reminder of the dominance he believed entitled to him. He was used to obedience, to having mistakes brushed away by his father's name. And wealth to Michael, Olivia was simply an inconvenient yet disposable victim. Yet beneath his bravado, Michael felt an unsettling ripple of doubt. He had humiliated many before, but none had departed with such poise and quiet dignity. Olivia's steady gaze and final proud smile left a small crack in his confidence, a seed of uncertainty about the strength and authority he so prized. Though he would never admit it, her reaction struck at the fragile core of his vanity. Outside the Hartley estate, the cool night air washed away the heat on Olivia's cheeks. A gentle breeze, strands of her hair curled. As she stood tall, drawing in a deep, steadying breath. In that moment, she felt the full weight of the battle she fought every day against bias, against racism, against the invisible injustices of society. A young attendant bowed respectfully at the gate. Olivia returned a gracious nod and unspoken thanks. She knew true strength wasn't measured by sharp retorts or explosive confrontations, but by unwavering self-respect and resolve. Even when the world seemed poised to crush her, she slid into her black sedan and closed the door softly. The car pulled away from the glittering mansion, leaving behind the blinding lights and opulent sounds of the party, but also the first fractures in the Hartley family's foundation of power. Olivia understood this was only the beginning. She would not be silenced. Rather than engage in petty revenge, she would wield her integrity and skill to secure the ultimate victory. Inside the hall, Michael Hartley raised his champagne glass with practiced ease, determined to push down the uneasy flutter in his chest. He could not yet see that Olivia Bennet's composed defiance had set in motion a reckoning far more costly than anything he had ever imagined. The sedan glided quietly through the gates of the Hartley estate, fading into the darkness of the deserted streets. Olivia leaned back in her seat, her eyes half closed, but her mind racing. She had believed that calm and composure would feel like victory when she left the party, but instead, she now faced an intense tension-filled inner battle. As soon as she stepped into her downtown apartment, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from the board chair. "We need to talk right now. It's very serious," a single line, yet enough to show that tonight's fallout was already spreading and would not be easily contained. Olivia sat by the large window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Her phone kept lighting up with messages from board members, worried, anxious, all urging her to get back to the table and salvage the $900 million deal they believed could transform the company's future. But Olivia knew that returning meant bowing to the humiliation Michael Hartley had inflicted. Her heart wouldn't allow it. The night wore on, but sleep wouldn't come. The room lay in darkness and absolute silence, a stark contrast to the turmoil in her mind. Memories of wounds she'd hidden for years surged back, vivid and painful as if they'd happened only yesterday. She remembered her first day at a prestigious university among students from wealthy families. The contemptuous glances, the whispered cruel remarks behind her back, the stifled giggles as she walked the long corridors, all still echoed in her mind. Back then, she vowed never to let anyone belittle her again. She would prove that skin color and background could never define a person's worth. Those memories mingled with Michael Hartley's arrogant face from tonight, fortifying her resolve. Yet her heart ached whenever she recalled Richard Hartley's look, the look of a father who refused to stand up for what was right, silently watching his son humiliate another to preserve the family's hollow honor. Olivia wondered, was the power of money and status really worth more than self-respect and dignity? Her phone lit up again, this time a call from Sarah Mitchell, her close friend and the company's vice president. Olivia hesitated, then answered. "Olivia, the board is on edge some." Hartley watched the unfolding crisis on his phone with a smirk. He reveled in the board's turmoil, confident Olivia would soon buckle under internal pressure. To him, this game was already won. What he failed to see was that his own overconfidence blinded him to one truth: Olivia Bennet was no easy target. Back in the boardroom, Olivia looked each person in the eye. "I'm not asking for unanimous agreement, but as the leader of this company, I am officially withdrawing from the Hartley deal, and I accept full responsibility for any fallout." Her clear, forceful declaration silenced the room. Everyone recognized it wasn't just a personal statement. It was the stand of a woman prepared to defend her and her company's honor at any cost. Olivia turned and left the boardroom, leaving behind a charged stillness and a shaken leadership. She knew today's decision would unleash storms of controversy, but it was a choice she would never regret. And in her heart, Olivia understood that her toughest battle was only just beginning. Just hours after leaving the tense board meeting, Olivia Bennet stood confidently at the podium in a vast hall facing hundreds of reporters and media representatives. Flashbulbs popped incessantly as curious, expectant eyes fixed on her, awaiting an official explanation for the decision that was rocking the business world. Olivia wore a simple yet powerful white suit, her hair pulled into a neat chignon, her eyes unwavering with resolve. A hush descended over the room as she stepped up to the microphone, leaning in slightly as if about to deliver the most important statement of her life. "My dignity is not for sale at any price," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I am officially withdrawing from the $900 million partnership with the Hartley Corporation." The room erupted in stunned chatter and rapid-fire questions. Reporters jostled to get the microphone first, desperate for more details on this shocking reversal. "Miss Shocking Reversal? Bennett, are you concerned about negative reactions from your shareholders?" asked a senior journalist, skepticism etched on his face. Olivia replied calmly but firmly, "I believe our shareholders understand our core values. We cannot build our future on deals that compromise our honor and integrity." Sucro. "But ma'am, isn't this decision overly emotional? Some say you're letting personal feelings override the company's best interests," pressed a young female reporter. Olivia met her gaze without flinching. "If defending one's self-respect and dignity is called emotional, Then, yes, I am acting on emotion, but I firmly believe that in business and in life, certain principles must never be broken, no matter the reason. Backstage, Sarah Mitchell, Olivia's close friend and the company's vice president, watched with a mix of concern and pride. She knew Olivia was doing what few leaders dared, standing up for principle in a world where profit always takes precedence. Meanwhile, in the grand office of the Hartley mansion, Michael Hartley watched the press conference, his face hardening with rage and unexpected anxiety. Olivia's bold statement struck at the very core of his pride, making him realize for the first time that his presumed control was slipping. She really went through with it. He muttered, anger rising. He was used to people caving to the H. Hartley name, but Olivia Bennet had caught him completely off guard. Back on stage, the press conference continued to crackle with tension as reporters lobbed piercing questions about racism, discrimination, and ethics in big business. Olivia answered each one with calm intelligence, making clear that her decision was not a hasty impulse, but the product of a profound struggle with her deepest values. A renowned anchor from a major network asked the final question in a sincere tone. Miss Bennet, what message would you like to convey to young entrepreneurs, especially those facing discrimination and pressure from powerful interests like the Hartley family? Olivia looked directly into the camera, her voice dropping to a resonant, just need a little more time. Control. Richard cut him off, fury in his tone. This isn't something money and power can just sweep under the rug. You've gone too far. This time, his father's words struck Michael like a cold splash of water, shattering the pride he'd always taken for granted. For the first time, he realized that wealth and status could vanish in an instant before the combined might of public opinion and the integrity of people like Olivia Bennet. That night, the social media firestorm showed no signs of dying down, and the battle between dignity and material power had truly entered its most decisive, unrelenting phase. As dawn broke over the city skyline, the first light filtered through the thick glass of Michael's office windows, trying to illuminate the deep cracks in an empire he'd always thought unshakable. After a sleepless, tension-filled night, Michael felt more keenly than ever that his power and status teetered on the brink of collapse. That morning, Hartley Corporation's share price plunged 18% within the first few hours of trading, unleashing unprecedented chaos on the financial markets. Major investors panicked, dumping stock en masse, while traders frantically reported the dire situation. Never before had the Hartley name, long regarded as a rock-solid symbol of prestige and influence, appeared so fragile and vulnerable. In the emergency boardroom at the Hartley estate, Richard Hartley stared at the live ticker, showing the share price spiraling downward. His face had gone ashen with worry. Silence gripped the room. No one dared speak. Finally, Richard turned to Michael, his voice cold but trembling with anger. Michael, what have you done? This corporation is not your toy to be wrecked by your arrogance and irresponsibility. Michael sat motionless, his gaze distant and frosty. He offered no reply, but in his eyes burned a fierce unease. He'd never before confronted the real-world consequences of his actions. The pride of a man who believed the world revolved around him was crumbling, replaced by a rising tide of fear. That afternoon, the board of directors convened an urgent meeting. Their faces were stern, their anger palpable. To stabilize both image and operations, Chairman Thomas Gallagher, a longtime partner and close friend of Richard, rose and declared, "We have no choice but to suspend Michael from all leadership duties immediately until a full investigation is complete and public confidence is restored. This is the only way forward." Michael's eyes widened in shock, then blazed with outrage and panic. "You can't do this. This is my family's company." Thomas fixed him with a steely glance, disappointment clear in his tone. "Michael, you brought this crisis upon us with your hubris and lack of accountability. Don't forget who put us in time. You face the consequences of your actions. I've always shielded you from your minor mistakes. This time, I can only let you bear the responsibility yourself." Michael met his father's gaze, feeling a depth of despair he'd never known. "Father, is there any way to salvage this?" Richard shook his head. Forward, though her spectacular success drew widespread admiration, Olivia remained humble and spoke no word of self-congratulation. That humility only deepened the respect Olivia commanded, proving that true victory isn't about defeating an opponent, but standing firm in one's values and dignity. In